Welcome to Property Mama Adventures in Real Estate, episode 29. It is here where I share each week all of the shenanigans that go on in the real estate industry. I'm going to be talking about real estate agents today. That's why I've got it on the brain. If we have not met before, my name is Wendy Chamberlain and I'm a buyer's agent, buyer's advocate here in Melbourne, Australia. So each week, there's always a new shenanigan to share, and this week is no different. So I wanted to circle back to talk about real estate agents, auctions, and underquoting, because we went to an auction this weekend for our client to bid at auction. And I also heard about another auction result for somebody else. And I wanted to share both of those and compare them to show you what underquoting looks like and what something being legally quoted looks like as well. So here in Victoria, the real estate agent, when they put something on the public market, are expected to create something that's called a statement of information. And that's basically a guide price to give an idea to potential buyers where the property sits on price, so that they know, of course, you have to do your due diligence. And I need to say that up front, that you as a buyer need to do your own due diligence as to the value of a home. Because the statements of information that are created by the real estate agents, what's the way I can put this? The water always gets around the rock. So whilst they are there in place as a benchmark, if you like, for the agents to provide comparable sales, there are ways for the data to be legally manipulated to suit the purposes of the real estate agent, and we see that all the time. So the guides are 3 comparable sales within the last 6 months within 2 kilometres. And if they can't find any comparable sales, they can not include 3, they can include less than that, or they can just leave it blank as well because there was nothing comparable to them. So which is where doing your own diligence comes in. And the comparables that they choose may not actually be comparable to the home that you're looking at to buy. So again, you need to be doing your own due diligence. So through the week, I was contacted by someone in the real estate industry. They had a colleague, had a mate that wanted to bid on a property, and he just wanted to get an idea of the pricing on that property. So I did make an inquiry with that real estate agent. I do know that real estate agent, and we've bought quite a number of homes off that real estate agent as well. And he gave me his normal spiel and told me he had his guide price that which had a range on it. And he said, oh, it's absolutely worth the top of the range, probably even more, is basically what he said. And so I just passed that feedback along to the person that had asked, who passed it along to his mate. And that person went along to that auction. And wowee. So I'll circle back to that in a moment. So we went along to another auction for our client. And the guide price on this particular property, it had 1.6 to 1.7 as the guide price. They had some comparables. I had 3 comparables in there, one which was at 1.9. And when I spoke to the real estate agent, he said that wasn't really comparable. They just put it in there to show that this home wasn't really at that level. And there were another couple which were lower, and they were in the guide price. So underquoting is where the real estate, the vendor's reserve is not inside the guide price. The law states that the vendor's reserve must be within the guide price. So if the guide price is 1.6 to 1.7 million, well, then the vendor's reserve needs to be inside of that guide price. So we've done our due diligence on the property. I've found out the information that I needed as to the value of the home, where it could get to on price. So another thing to remember when you're going along to a real estate agent, there's a number of different, I'll call them potential price points that might get hit through an auction, depending on who shows up, the level of interest in the property, and who literally shows up on the day of the auction and is there as a buyer and is bidding. Because there's many moving parts in relation to the price and where a property being sold at auction can end up. And we see this all the time. And we saw it on this home that I'm about to tell you about. and was also on that other one that I'll also tell you about in a moment. That was just eye-watering what happened there. So what I talk to my clients about is, okay, there's the price that the vendor will sell on the day. So barring any other types of pricing being there, it is the value at which they will let the home go. They'll put it on the market and they will sell the home. So that's the vendor sale price. Then you have the buyer equation. So from the buyer's perspective, there's going to be where they see the value in the home. And there's a whole raft of factors that can play into that. Market conditions, what's happening with interest rates, what's happening in the general wider economy and market, all play into where a buyer is going to potentially see the value of a home. And so that's the X factor, if you like. So there's once a home is on the market, it's where a buyer is going to take it to if there's competitive bidding and multiple bidders still in the mix at that point in time, at that point of an auction. And so there's what I refer to as what you'd say a fair and reasonable price, but there's also what is called an emotional price, what a buyer may potentially be prepared to put forward and pay on a home, to buy the home, to secure the home, where you might go, well, it's not worth that. Well, to that buyer on the day of an auction, it is worth that. And so that's that emotional price that I talk about. And it's really difficult when you're having those conversations with your clients to say, well, I've spoken to the agent and they've said that there's 3 buyers there, and then these are people are showing up and these people won't, because you're dealing with humans and emotions and things. And I can tell you, people say, we're going to come along, and then they don't. People say, we're not coming, we're not interested, and then they show up and then they bid. So all of these things do happen through the process of an auction. It's human nature. It's what happens. And so what they have tried to put a handle on the real estate industry here, certainly in Victoria, in relation to underquoting, is to have some guidance there for a buyer to have an inkling of where a home might end up on price, so that they're not wasting their time and their money. Because if you are in the process of searching for a home, let's put aside the emotional stress that it puts on a lot of people when it comes to buying a home. That's absolutely something that it's hard to put a monetary value on. But there are due diligence steps that I talk about that you should be doing and need to take place to get yourself ready to bid at auction. And 2 of the key ones I talk about all the time are getting a building and pest inspection done to make sure that you're not buying a money pit, or I guess at a minimum, you're getting a to-do list of what you know is wrong with the home and what you need to fix up, and you can work out your budgeting knowing that, okay, I've got to do X, Y, and Z on this home. So that's going to cost me A, B, and C, and I can work that out into my budget and what I'm prepared to offer on this property. There's also needing to get your contracts checked. So a contract of sale, you must get it checked by your legal representative, because let me tell you, there's things missing, there are things incorrect, there are things that should be in there that aren't, things that are in there that you might want taken out, and this is all a discussion. So you need to do all those things. And you're dealing with professionals, and professionals charge for their time. So there's a cost there of getting yourself ready. So if you're going along thinking you can afford a home because of a guide price or what's been told to you by a real estate agent, then you can be many times, which is why the buyers find it so frustrating, many times just wasting your time, because you were never going to be able to afford that home. So due diligence, I've said it a few times, due diligence, you've got to do your due diligence and know what that type of home in that neighborhood, even to the street level, what those homes are likely to sell for. And then, of course, we read in the X factor with the buyers and what the buyers are going to pay. So there's all the things in the mix. It's what we do with it when we work with our clients. We smooth those waters for them, because we know all these due diligence steps that have to be taken, the order in which they have to be done, the speed at which we have to do them, and we take care of all of that. That's what we do. So the auction we attended on Saturday, as I said, the guide price was between 1.6 and 1.7. And the auction got started, and auctions generally go a number of ways. You'll have, and this is a conversation I had with my clients because we went through the week to have a discussion about auction strategy and so forth. And I will cover auction strategies in a future episode of my Property Mama podcast because it is something that is very relevant and people need to know how to bid at auction and some of the strategies that you can employ to put yourself in a better position to be the one buying that particular property. So we had a conversation around what normally happens at the start of an auction. So the auctioneer will do what I call the preamble. That generally will talk about the area and all the amenities and why it's a great area, blah, blah, blah. And then they will switch and talk about the home itself, or in reverse order, but they do cover these two topics. And I'll talk about why the house is wonderful, the accommodation, the fixtures, the fittings, all the things to pump it up because they're trying to get the house sold. And the auctioneer did that. And then they start calling for bids. And they will say, well, we've been quoting X to Y, happy to start wherever you want to start me, blah, blah, blah. They've got their scripts that they follow. And crickets. So one of the things that can happen is absolute crickets. Other thing that can happen is you'll get a smarty pants buyer put an offer in and it'll be way low, below what the house is in any way, shape or form worth. Or you'll have people that come in strong and put a boom, a bid like that. So, which is rarer, but it does happen. The thing that we most commonly see is the crickets. And on Saturday, we had crickets. And so auctioneers, they realise that, they're trained for that, they know about that. And they said, okay, well, I'm going to put forward a vendor bid of 1.6, which was the bottom of the guide price, and then asked for $25,000 rises from there. All normal, all standard stuff. And so they were calling for bids. And one of the other buyers in the crowd started bidding. Okay. And so then they was going to call it 3 times, which the property would have been passed into that person. And so I'd already set with my client, we'd set our budget. And so I started bidding along in the process as well. And so the bids were going. So bids were going back and forth between myself and the other buyer that was bidding. And the property got to 1.7 million. And the languaging of the auctioneer changed. And so I asked the question, I said, have you just put it on the market? And he said, yes, the property is on the market. So what that means is that it will sell. There being no better bid moving forward, the person who has bid and has hit the reserve, that's going to be the person that gets the keys and gets to be the one owning that property. So it was on the market. So they quoted 1.6 to 1.7. It was on the market at 1.7. And then from there, the buyer activity took it further on. And so the person I was bidding against kept bidding against me, and that went back and forth. And so the auction was going, it was rolling. So it's what I'm talking about, that buyers will take a property past a vendor reserve in many cases, because that's where the buyers are seeing the value of the property. The bidding kept going and going and going and going. And the other person started to run out of puff, run out of budget, or not want to pay that value. And then someone else came into the mix and started bidding against us. And that kept going and going and going. And so the property sold for over 100,000 more above the top of the guide price. But that is not underquoting. So I want to be very clear about that. That is not underquoting, because the agent had advertised the property with a guide price in which the vendor's reserve was at the top of the guide price. So the top of the guide price was 1.7. The property was put on the market at the 1.7 mark. So it was going to be sold at that point. And then competition took it further, an extra 100,000 plus over that. And that's where that property ended up. Not underquoting. That is just market forces. What is underquoting is this other property. So I had inquired with the agent through the week for this person to tell his mate about it. And his mate went along to the auction. So they had quoted 125 to 135. And the agent had said to me, as I said, yeah, it's worth 135 every day of the week. That's what it said. That's the feedback I'd passed back. Now, it is up to that person to do their due diligence on that property. So based on that house, on that price, in that suburb, I thought it was a bit lean on their price as it was, but that's what was quoted. Spoke to the agent. That's the feedback I got given. That's what I passed along. So this person goes along to the auction and the bidding starts, and top of the guide price is 135, so 1,350,000. Bidding starts, bidding gets to 1.4. Property is still not on the market. Bidding continues, and apparently this agent was putting in vendor bids, which is not a valid bid because the vendor's not buying their own house, right? The buyer's buying the house, not the vendor. They're not buying back their own house, but a vendor bid is a way that an agent can get an auction started or get it closer to the price where the actual reserve is. So if you're past 1.4, you've quoted 1.35, you've passed 1.4 and you are still putting in vendor bids, and apparently he was also knocking back bids from the buyers, property was still not on the market, and it got passed in at 145. So it got passed in at 1,450,000 off a guide price of 1,350,000. So it's 100,000 over the top of the guide price, and it's still not on the market. Hello, underquoting. And so the bidder that it got passed into, so it gets passed into the person who's got the top bid. They walk inside and the agent says to them, 1.5 will buy it today. So we are now 150,000 above the top of the guide price. We are well into underquoting territory. So I actually do know this real estate agent, and like to say that they should know better is an understatement. I did look up that property a few days later, and it was shown as being sold at 1.5. So someone has seen the value there, but that's not the point I'm making here. Where a property is underquoted, you are wasting so many people's time, besides the fact it's illegal. But interestingly, when I was talking to another real estate agent, and he agreed with me, this is the kind of shenanigans that gives the real estate industry a bad name. There's so many real estate agents that do the right thing. They follow all the rules, they accurately price their houses, they speak respectfully to the buyers coming through, and they are honest about the situation of the vendor and where they feel the value, and they've done a comparable, the price guide is actually pretty spot on. It does happen, and the good agents do that. So in further research on this property, it was actually, do you believe it was actually priced lower than this? When they first put that property on the market at the start of the campaign, so we took a 4-week auction campaign, at the start they had it on at 1,150 to 1,250. And then about 10 days into their campaign, they raised it from 1,250 to 1,350. This is where they would have known the value of the home or been advising their vendor that it was a $1.5 million home. Clearly it was, because that's what it was purchased for within a day or two by somebody else. They started their guide price $250,000 under what the property was worth from a vendor's perspective from the reserve. Because if you're passing it in at 145 and you had initially had your guide price top at 125, so you were 200,000. It's wild. And it's really, really frustrating because it gives the entire industry a bad name, the entire industry. And there's no reason to do it. The only reason that real estate agent is doing it is to feather their own nest and build their database, because the whole purpose of a spread of price on a guide price is so that you can get all these buyers at the bottom end to either push them into other homes you might have for sale or to build your database. And there's a percentage that will have another home to sell. That's why they want them there, because they know people buying often have to sell. So they don't care about the fact that you've got a 1.5 house that you're advertising at 135 and all these buyers coming through doing building inspections, getting their contracts checked, spending their time to go and look at this property and think about it, stress about it, dream about it, all these things which are the intangibles of it. You don't give a shit about that, because all you want is you want those buyers, if they've got a house to sell, you want them through your door so you can get that to sell. That's number one. You want to add them to your database because that way you can market to them. Some of those might be investors. You can get them on your rent roll, so you've got landlords coming in potentially there. And you can push them across to other homes that you're selling because you know they can't afford that one. But that's fine because I've got this one over here. Come and have a look at this one over here. I can't tell you how many ways this is wrong. And that's probably the most recent blatant case of underquoting that I have seen. And it absolutely needs to stop because it is just totally not only disrespectful to your vendor, because no one there on the day was your buyer. It's totally disrespectful to all the other buyers because they've just wasted their time. You're actually being disrespectful to every single other real estate agent in the industry because you're just tarnishing the name of the industry. I'm over it. Can you tell? It needs to stop. It needs to stop. So you can see there, I wanted to point out to you the differences between actual blatant underquoting, which what that second example was, versus quoting a property for sale where market forces or market buyer interest takes it to a level which is higher. So they're two different things, because if a vendor is prepared to sell within or at the top of a guide price, that's totally different to the whole shenanigans that went on with this other one with that vendor. So I can tell you the vendor's going to have wanted 1.5 every single day of the week. It's the real estate agent that is performing the shenanigans train, because they're the ones that are responsible for getting the comparable sales together, marketing the property, all those things. They will be advising their vendor. And to be that far under is just not on. It's absolutely just not on. So what do? So Chamberlain Property Advocates, we work with clients to help them buy homes, and we can have a look at the due diligence and make sure that they're not wasting their money, because further inquiry on that property would have shown that it was a 1.5 home, irrespective of what it's advertised for. One of the things that we do for our clients, basically we can perform a price check, so they're not wasting their time. And often when clients come to us, they are looking at properties that they can't afford because they're believing the guide prices that are being advertised by some of these agents that are just causing massive issues in the industry. So if you're ready to purchase and you want someone there to hold your hand, to be that sounding board for you, to support you and to be 100% in your corner, that's what we do here at Chamberlain Advocates. I've been buying and selling real estate for almost 30 years. Other members of our team have a lot of experience as well. We have a lot of experience across multiple real estate markets also. So happy to help out if that's what you're after. Just slide into our DMs, or you can go to our website, chamberlainadvocates.com.au. So that's Property Mama for this week. Again, talking about underquoting. Seems to just be constantly. So I will return in a future episode to talk about strategies for auction bidding. If you've got any questions, of course, send those through. If you've got any particular areas of real estate that you'd like me to talk about and cover, also happy to do that. In the meantime, enjoy listening to our Property Mama podcast. If you are a fan and are enjoying the stories that we share, please give us a thumbs up and like and share our podcast. That's how we can reach others and help others within the industry, looking to other buyers in the industry, looking to secure their home. And share it with your friends, family and colleagues. We'd really appreciate that. And so once again, Wendy Chamberlain, lovely to have you with me, and look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye-bye for now.